Hey there, welcome to the channel. In today's episode, I am going to talk a little bit about how I sort of approach the beginning of a new project. This is not the launch of a new project. I'm just going through some kits, getting them prepped for future build. So anyways, this is the example I'm going to use today. So if that's something that you're interested in, stick around and let's get into it. First place we start, obviously this is all unpacked and ready to sort and organize, but essentially when I get a Model Factory Hiro kit, there's a few things to do beforehand. Hopefully you've seen some of my reviews, so you'll see how they all come packed. Everything just comes in a baggie, no sprues, no labeling, no nothing, so you're kind of left to your own devices to figure out what parts you need for what step. There's some of the turn parts and the rubber parts and stuff like that, but all the white metal and the resin have mold release agent on them. So the very first thing I do is clean all the parts. For this process, I've already done it on this kit. All this is all clean. It's all sitting on a paper towel to dry out, so I'm not going to actually show that process. I'll tell you what I use. I use magnetic tumbler right now. It's just, you get them on Amazon. It's the bigger one, the 185, I think, which is the size of the drum that the parts go in. I think it's the diameter of it. So here's the drum, the cleaning tub for the magnetic tumbler, and it's got a bunch of little pins in it. These are just ones that came with it. They're a pain in the butt, but anyways, you just put a bit of water in here. And I just use dishwashing soap, just a little bit of that. I fill the water up. I don't know if you can see on the side here, just about an inch of water in here, and then put the parts in. And it's just got a big magnet that spins in the base that magnetizes the pins and moves them around and agitates it and cleans the parts. So what that does for this, like what these are made for, is cleaning jewelry and polishing soft metals. I'm not trying to polish any of these parts. All I'm doing is trying to get rid of the mold release agent. And that's really all this thing's good for. Like, it won't get rid of parting lines or flash or anything like that. Like, if you put it in for long enough, it will polish the parts to a certain extent. But usually the surface finish on these castings aren't good enough for a super high gloss polished finish. So you need to do some work before you polish it to, in fact, polish it in the polisher, if that makes sense. And then you'd need to use different chemicals to polish. But anyways, just use soap in that, clean it. That's the method I use. Is it the best method out there? I don't know. Like, it's these things have their drawbacks. Like, if you have big, heavy parts like these, although this isn't very heavy, but kind of have to do big, heavy parts by themselves, like one at a time, because if they're spinning around, and my polisher, I don't know if it's just not working right, it spins pretty quickly. It gets everything kind of moving in there. So if you put big, heavy parts in, especially with other big, heavy parts, or even with the little ones, they bang into each other, and it can cause damage to the parts. So you got to be super careful with that. That's what I find, at least. I've run into that in the past. So now when I'm doing bigger parts, they've got some mass to them, do them one at a time. Up until you got all these little tiny parts, you can just put, like I did like half of these little parts. Like I did all the little parts in 2 batches, essentially, minus these kind of heavier ones. So that's the only sort of precaution when using something like this. I've done it without that. I've just used soapy water and scrubbed them. I found it problematic. I couldn't get them clean enough, so I'd have paint adhesion issues. I've also tried soaking them in lacquer thinner and stuff like that, and again, varying degrees of success there. I think the most successful has been the tumbler so far for getting rid of all the mold release agent. And that's why we want to get rid of it, is because the paint won't stick if it's there. So that's obviously a problem. The next one, I want to try it. I'm not sure if anybody has tried and if it works or not, is an ultrasonic cleaner. I don't see why it wouldn't work. I don't have access to one. I might go and buy one. We'll see. Give it a whirl. It'd be useful for other stuff anyways, but I see no reason why it wouldn't work to get rid of the mold release agent. But anyways, I also do use my magnetic tumbler on the resin. So like these resin pieces sitting here, I ran through the tumbler and it gets rid of the mold release agent off of them really well. And doesn't damage the parts at all, because as long as you don't put them in with white metal, just put them in the tumbler. I did all these parts at the same time and they're all fine. So yeah, that's the cleaning aspect. So I get everything cleaned up, get all the mold release agent off of that, and that's what I do very first. You know, I try not to handle the parts too much. I try not to have them on the bench or looking through test fitting or cleaning up burrs or any of that kind of stuff before I've cleaned them. And the reason there is mold release agent, you get it on, like if I go and do some test fitting and I grab my sander and sand a burr off, I've contaminated that sander now. And that's just, it just creates so many problems down the line. You just don't even realize that. So very first thing, like I say, clean everything. Then the next thing I want to do, and that's going to get sort of my next step here where I'm at, is to inventory the parts. Make sure that I have everything I'm supposed to. You don't really want to find out that you're missing a part, you know, 3/4 of the way through the build. You're coming to the second to last step and you're missing a part that's kind of critical. So I like to inventory everything, and at the same time I organize it all. So that's what I'll do next. I don't know if I'll demonstrate any of that right now, but let me sort of recompose here and I'll be back. All right, so we're back, obviously. So for this process, this is time consuming. It takes a little while, but I find that it makes the rest of the build go so much smoother. So a few things I use, obviously you need the instructions. I got a Sharpie, a highlighter, and a pencil, and Ziploc freezer bags. Typically I'll mark the step number on the freezer bag. That's what that's for, and then have the instructions here. And I just start finding all the parts for, and I do it by step. So we're going to work on step 1, and I find all the parts for step 1. And when I find a part, I'll usually just set them on the instructions, and I'll mark off with my highlighter which ones I've located. Keeping in mind, I'm just doing the resin and the white metal. So photo etch, I'm not worried about that. Model Factory Hiro identifies their parts. If it starts with an M, that means it's a cast metal part. If it starts with an E, it's a photo etch part. If it starts with a R, it's a resin part. Can't remember what the clear parts are. I think it's VA or something like that. But anyways, that's sort of their methodology on identifying what the parts are. Turn parts are T, so T1. That's what, I don't know if you can see that, but the funnels are T1, so that's indicating it's a turn part. So the turn parts, like the hoses, the piece of wire, I'll leave those packaged the way they came in the photo etch, but right now I'm worried about getting all the white metal and resin organized by step and to make sure I have it all. So, you know, I'm not going to demonstrate all this, but, you know, essentially you just identify the part. You know, here's this part here. That corresponds to this part here. And I'll just highlight it saying I have it. And then just do the same thing with everything else. That's M10, give it a highlight, and so forth, and go through it all. And once I have it all these parts, then I bag them in my Ziploc bag, seal it up, put it aside, and then carry on to the next steps. So, you know, that's the organizing of it. And I just find that this makes the rest of the build go so much better. You know, like I haven't cleaned up any of these parts yet, other than cleaning the mold release off of them. So then I just do that step by step as I go. I find that that's might not be more efficient, but it's more manageable, if that makes sense. Like to sit down and clean all this stuff right now, de-seam everything, and then do the sorting, and then do the building. I find that's too monotonous, personally. I'm sure some people do that and they're just fine with it, and it might be a perfectly good strategy for them. But for me, I like to just sort everything, organize it by step. Then, you know, when I'm building the kit, I'll work on step 1 and, you know, do the start to finish on step 1, step 2 or whatever. I don't necessarily need to build them in the step orders, but at least that particular step. So yeah, that is what I do. And then in this case, I'm not going to start this kit, so don't think this is the next kit on the channel after the Maserati is done. It's not. There's going to be probably a couple before this one. This is the Eagle Westlake T1G, which I'll probably be starting it in real time. I'll be starting this sometime in October of this year. It's now February. I've got 2 other kits to build before this one, and so when this goes up on the channel, it'll probably be about this time next year, actually, is when the build series will go up. Maybe actually a little later than now, in about a year's time. And I guess that's the other thing. I don't do this for all my Model Factory Hiro kits. Like, I know right now I've set my schedule for 2024 builds, and this is one of them. It happens to be the last one that I'll start in 2024, so I've already sorted and done this whole process for the other 2, and you'll find out about them soon enough. And I guess if you follow me on Facebook, I've already indicated what those 3 kits that I'm going to be working on this year are, so it's not a big secret. Next kit up that I'm going to be starting working on probably this weekend is going to be the Ducati 750 Imola. And then after that, or probably concurrently, I'm going to build the 1/20th scale Bugatti Type 35 from 1930, Model Factory Hiro. Again, both those are. And then once those 2 are done, I'm going to start the Eagle. Because, like I indicated, I think in my last Talking Head video, my plan is to always, and hopefully keep with this, is I'll finish a kit and a project before I start uploading the videos. So the Maserati, which is starting right now, it's done. That the model is done. It's 100% complete. I think that's obvious by my intro for that one. Is I don't know if that's up on the current videos, but it shows the completed model. So, and I think that's only fair to the viewer. So if you're interested in seeing how the Maserati goes together, you're going to know by the end of the series exactly how it went. I'm not going to stop making or abandon the project. That's my goal, so is to make sure that when I start filming and uploading a series, it's finished. It's going to have a conclusion. So anyways, that's enough rambling on. I just wanted to talk a little bit about sort of my, the cleaning, organizing, and inventorying of Model Factory Hiro kits. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got some insight on that. Maybe you can integrate some of that into your builds, or if you do something totally different that really works and you think the way I'm doing it is not as efficient, or you have a different way of cleaning the white metal and the resin to get rid of the mold release, drop a comment down below. I'd really like to know about that kind of stuff. So until next time, we'll see you later, and take care. Bye-bye.